Well, hello, everybody. This is Kent Vaughn with Blaze Performance Solutions. It's noon, and I'm so excited to invite you and welcome you to our webinar today, Navigating Crisis with the tool we call Execution in Your Pocket, a digital compass for engaging your team. I want to welcome one of my business partners on the phone with me, David Williams. David, you want to say hello?
Yes, hello, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today on the call, and we are excited to be able to share with you what we believe is a really strong and a pretty cool tool to do exactly what we're talking about, engaging your team. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Now, there is a crisis going on globally. It is a pandemic, and it's a topic of conversation that fills our days and the airwaves and our nights. We'd like you to stop for just a minute and try to stop thinking about that and think back to consider a time when you were most excited and engaged, we might say motivated about your job, your career, your life, your something. You know, maybe it was a team you played on, maybe it's a project team at work, maybe it's an organization, maybe something you did. But as you think about the times when you have felt most excited and motivated and engaged, whatever words you want to use, I'd like to think about what was going on. Why were you so excited? Was it that you were working with friends, or you made friends with the people you're working with? Was it the job that was so great? Was it you were having fun? Was it interesting? Were you, changing the world? Were you making lots of money? Could we say that you were likely winning? And for sure, in this day and age, at this very moment in time, we all need to be a part of teams that are winning, that are finding a way to, in spite of seemingly impossible odds, find ways, to win, to achieve your most important goals, to beat COVID-19. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. And that's why we're so excited about it, because everybody wants to win. Nobody started their jobs thinking, gee, I just want to be mediocre. I just want to, finish last. No, nobody wants that at all. And so in spite of everything that's going on, how can we help ourselves and our teams do just that? A lot of the ideas we will talk about today come from our book, The 3 Keys of Execution. Inc. magazine last year rated as a must-read and a book even that could change your life. But we promised you a digital compass. So let's just jump in and talk about this digital compass, Execution in Your Pocket, at least briefly introduce it. And then we're going to talk about some underlying issues before we get into that tool that are really so essential. What are we really trying to do here? So just four things real quick about this tool. It is truly a cloud-based tool. It's a mobile-enabled platform. It's in the cloud. You don't have to load anything onto your machine, your laptop, your phone. Any web-enabled device can access it. No system memory is required at all. And it's really easy to use. It's like an app. My 80-some-year-old mother is really good at downloading and using apps on her phone. Now, admittedly, she has a bunch of kids and grandkids that have helped her, but she's now gotten really good at using apps. And so anybody, almost anybody, has gotten really accustomed to there being apps everywhere and using those. So this system, it's ready built, it's easy to use, it doesn't require a lot of training or input or consulting days, but it is built on something really important, and that is 5 essential principles. EIYP, we'll say it from now on, instead of Execution in Your Pocket, is built on 5 really important principles, like this mountain out here and gravity, all things, these principles. One principle is inspire. We're going to talk a little bit more about these in detail in the next few minutes, but it begins with some inspiration. And think about what a difference it makes when you feel inspired. The second principle is education. We all want to continually get better. We know the world's constantly changing. How do we continue to give ourselves a little education? Motivation. Who can't use a little motivation now and then, and sometimes a lot of motivation? Finally, or number 4, not finally, application. How do you apply this to what you need to do to be successful? How do you apply your daily actions to the goals of the organization? And finally, how do we sustain that? Nobody we know wants to be number 1 in the world for a minute, for a month, even for a year. I mean, you can say, well, I was number 1 for a year. But we all want to be great all of the time. We all want to be successful all of the time. Before we jump into these in detail, David, as you think about these 5 principles, what comes to your mind? What's the things on top of your head?
Well, it's interesting how each one of these principles you will see them embedded when we talk about employee engagement, right? Because these are, I mean, if you don't inspire, don't educate, don't motivate, don't apply, don't sustain uh, your workforce, your team members, then you're going to be at risk of losing them. And even more so with so many more people working from home. Just in the U.S. alone, the statistic is that we went from 4.5% of the people working from home to now we're well north of 35%, which is a huge number here in the U.S. And so if you don't have systems in place that are built upon these five principles, it's going to be very easy for your team members to become disengaged. And that's the first thing that came to my mind as you were going through each one of these 5 points.
Thanks, David. That's so important. You know, it's interesting when we created this system a couple of years ago, and we've been refining it all the time. We weren't thinking about how much of the workforce was going to be remote. We were really thinking about, okay, I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I need to talk to David, who's in Indianapolis, and Steve who's in Salt Lake City, and Brian, who's down in Nashville, and Sonia, who's in Portugal, and Maria, who's in wherever, right? So we weren't thinking about, that's what we were thinking about. Now where you can all be in the same city, and yet nobody's in the same office, right? In very few instances, we're all working remote. So it's really interesting that we would call almost, you might call it serendipity, divine inspiration, whatever, about having this tool out there that people could use that would be so helpful and easy to use in a remote workforce. Now, since execution in pocket is built on these five principles, because is built on these five principles: inspire, educate, motivate, apply, sustain. It will help you and everyone on your team in three really, really important areas. Number one, it will help you overcome LGE. LGE is lift, guidance, and energy. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But those three inhibitors are what cause goals and strategic initiatives to fail almost every time. And David's going to walk us through in a little more detail on these in just a couple of minutes here. Then employee engagement. It by definition has a direct impact on employee engagement. By definition. And we all want to be engaged. Nobody wakes up thinking, gee, I hate to go do this thing. I hate to work on this team. We've all had jobs like that, I suspect. But that's not what we're looking for. That's not what drives success over time. It's not certainly what creates engagement. And finally, it helps you win as an organization, helps you improve results, helps you win as a team. And by definition, when you win, when you're being successful, that has a direct impact on engagement. In fact, we would say there's no bigger driver of engagement than winning. You know, let's think about it. Yep. Let's imagine that we're all on a Broadway play in New York City. Of course, if we were now, that'd be a problem because nobody can go, right? But if we were in a Broadway play and we got these rave reviews from the critics, is there anybody going to walk away from that play? I don't think so. When you get these rave critical reviews and the house is sold out every night, there's somebody walking away from that production because they're part of something that's winning. And we can apply that to any other team. You know, soccer team that's at the World Cup. People aren't walking away from their team when they're in the World Cup. No. And so improving results, winning, has this huge, huge impact on engagement, which we're all looking for. The funny thing about engagement is you don't get engagement by saying, let's get people more engaged. It's an outcome, an output. So let's jump into LGE, lift, guidance, and energy. And it's so funny. Dave and I were looking at this picture yesterday. When you think about lift, it looks like this. Tell me what you think about when you see this picture, David.
Yeah. So you got this baby, you're lifting up in the air, and you think, you know, baby's smiling, you're smiling, everybody's happy, and a lot of extra effort isn't needed to lift the baby up in the air. And don't we make that same mistake when we think of bringing in a new process, a new approach, a new way of thinking? I'm so enamored with it. I believe in it so much. It's just going to be, everybody else in the organization is going to love it. It's going to be phenomenal. We think the lift is going to be so easy, but in reality, what ends up happening is that it's more like this professional athlete trying to lift. I can't tell right offhand. It's probably, you know, well over 300 kilograms, right? She's trying to lift that up off the ground. And so that's what we end up dealing with. You know, we think it's going to be easy as lifting a baby, but in reality, it's as strenuous as this professional athlete trying to lift it in the air, right? And this is the number one reason most implementations fail, whether it be Six Sigma, whether it be lean, whether it be execution, whether it be implementing an ERP, MRP, or CRM. This is the reason most implementations fail, is because we don't appreciate the lift that is going to be needed to get the process off the ground, and we don't appreciate the lift because we become so enamored that we think, oh, this is going to be easy. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind when we look at this picture right here.
You know, it's funny, David. We've all seen this. You know, let's say you're reading this new book, or you see this show over the weekend, whatever, and you walk in on Monday, and you're so excited to tell people about, hey, we're going to do this and this and this, and you've been thinking about it all weekend long, and you think people are going to totally gather around and gather around the standard, right, the flag, and say, oh my gosh, we got to do this, and they look at you like deer in the headlight. Like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. We can't do that. We had this exact experience with the executive team of Blaze Performance Solutions yesterday. There were 4 of us, and we've got a couple books we've written, right? So we're working on a 3rd book, and it is so much harder than it ought to be, considering we already have a couple books that are published and have done very well. So, but why? Because we've got different viewpoints and different ideas and different opinions, and we're really excited about where it's going. But, gee, this ought to be easier than it is, and it's not. Even on our team, who totally understands lift, guidance, and energy, an executive team who talks about these things all the time, even with ourselves, it's more difficult than it really ought to be. The second part of lift, guidance, and energy is guidance. You know, we really undervalue what the guidance is going to be required. I mean, it looks like you're looking out and going, oh, it's just crossing the field, but hey, there's these trees in the way and all this kind of stuff, and how are we going to get there? And what we'd say is what you really need is ongoing guidance for everyone. What would you add to that, David?
Yeah, so it's interesting. When you ended up with left, you talk about the importance of everybody obviously being on the same page, which I doubt there's anybody that's listening to this would disagree with that. So, but just because everybody's on the same page doesn't mean that success is going to be taking place, right? Because use the example you used with us within Blaze, right? So we're putting the ideas together for this new book. We got some really strong energy around it, and we're all excited. But what happens if we don't have guidance, if we don't know the direction in which we want to write the book, right? What is the subject matter? And so just because now, okay, we've overcome the left, we anticipated it being hard, you know, so we had our systems in place to do it. So now the question is, now what? And the now what is the guidance piece. So the picture that you used here, the first one was, the guy was looking at the woods when in reality he was trying to get to the beach, right? and so it's the same thing that organizations face day in and day out. What's the direction that you want to go? Do not end up in the woods unless that's where you want to go. If you want to go to the beach, make sure you're ending up at the beach. And that's the beautiful thing about guidance, is that if you don't have guidance, daily coaching, maybe using the word daily inspiration might not be the right word, but I'll use it, you know, the daily coaching, daily inspiration, and make sure that we are continuing to move in the right direction. Without that guidance taking place every day, you're going to end up in an area or end up in a location you didn't really expect or really didn't want to end up at, right? So kind of tying the two together, lift and guidance.
Yeah, I love the analogy of nobody wants to be lost in the woods, right? And with the old, I can't see the forest for the trees, right? Nobody wants there. We're trying to get to the beach here, and there's trees there, but we don't want to get stuck in the woods. It's so important. And there are people who can help give you guidance, you know, coaches, mentors, there's great books, there's great tools, there's all kinds of things out there. We built into our system a way to give people guidance consistently, but we all have to be continually mindful of what are we filling our brains with, which brings us back to energy. You look at that empty gas gauge, petrol gauge, fuel gauge, and you go, oh yeah, right now there are so many energy drainers out there. The news, sometimes people around you, all kinds of things. Beware in this time of working remotely on your own. Beware of HALT, that acronym, that great acronym. If you're hungry, if you're angry, if you're lonely, if you're tired, be careful what you say, be careful what you do, that you're not doing even more to drain your own energy and drain the energy of those people around us. So I mean, where we're really trying to get to is a lot more energy. But when you see that empty gauge, what comes to your mind, David?
Energy is going to be spent, right? And so no illusions here, right? The petrol tank the gas tank will not remain full, right? So whenever you're driving these initiatives, whenever you're trying to create a culture of execution, energy is going to be spent, and that's good, right? Because as energy is being spent, hopefully that means things are moving, and there's progress taking place. And so the question needs to be asked: how do we replenish the energy after it's been spent, right? Because the gas tank's going to go down, right? It's going to go from a half a tank down to a quarter of a tank, then it might go all the way back up to that constant ebb and flow of the energy is going to be there. And so the organizations need to be thinking about, what are we going to do to make sure that the energy gets refilled, right? And so that's what we're looking at. We got your great illustration there of the lightning bolt in the sky, of energy taking place. Energy is going to be needed to keep this going. So the question that we need to ask, all organizations need to ask, is how you're going to do it. Because if you don't, the tank's going to get empty, and then the system's going to fall apart, right? Because you no longer have the energy needed to keep the process alive, healthy, and well.
Absolutely. And for each one of us, there are things we know that help us, that re-energize us, right? Maybe it's taking a good walk, taking a walk. I mean, even in this day and age of COVID, I see people walking around. I see people cycling. That they're not around a bunch of people, but they're out walking. And when you're walking and you walk past them, of course, everybody gives each other space. But maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's taking a drive. Maybe it's reading a great book, or journaling, or thinking about past successes. But what are the things you can do to replenish your energy? And as we say, in this system, we've built in some tools to help replenish energy, but it's something we've got to constantly be mindful of, because the fact is, every single day, the energy is going back down, right? And what are we doing to consistently replenish that? If we wait until the gas gauge is empty, there's going to be a problem. There's the old joke: have you ever been too busy driving, so focused on where you're trying to get to, that you forget to stop and get gas? Yeah, it's just silly. And yet we've all done that. We've all prayed ourselves to the next gas station, petrol station, fuel station, right? David and I both come out of manufacturing, and our other partners have spent their time in manufacturing, railroads and others. And what we know, in any kind of physical system like that, there is maintenance that is required. And so often organizations will kind of short-term the maintenance for short-term success. We're not going to take the equipment down for maintenance right now. And for the short run, that works very well. But it works terribly for the long run, because invariably things fall apart. I remember a client of ours years ago, Burger King, and we were talking about productivity and effectiveness in the Burger King restaurants. And as we went around and interviewed Burger King general managers, what we found was one of the biggest problems for them every single day was fryers going down. Yes, those deep fryers where they would fry the chicken and the fries and that kind of stuff. And in every restaurant, they had at least 2, if not 4 or 6 of these fryers. We said, when do they go down? They said, you can take to the bank, the fryer's going to go down during the busy time, at lunchtime, at dinner time, breakfast time. It's when it's going to go down. Never goes down, at 2 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon when no one's coming in, right? Why do they go down? He said, he and she, the general manager, minimum, they said, invariably it's because we don't consistently do preventive maintenance on the fryers. And he said, why don't you? They said, because it's a nasty job. You're draining all this oil off, grease off. You're getting rid of it. You're trying to clean out the thing and blah, blah, blah. And you can't cook in it while you're doing that. And it's hot. And so we tend to put it off. And yet we know it's going to bite us later, right? And that's what we all have to be mindful of. What are we doing to replenish our own energy and the energy of our team members and our friends, et cetera? There are things we all know that we can do that can work. And as we say, we've built into Execution Your Pockets and tools that help. It's just something we've all got to stay on top of. Rebuilding good energy, positive energy. Okay, we've whined for enough. A friend of mine years ago said, "You want some cheese to go with that wine, right?" We whined enough about what we can't do. I love what John Wooden, who was a famous basketball coach in the United States at UCLA years ago, he said, "Never let what you cannot do get in the way of what you can do." And I think that's so important. I can't control what any of the international leaders are doing about COVID-19. I can't control all kinds of things, but I can control some things. And that's what we're trying to guide all of us to, focus on what are the things we can do to improve energy and guide and direct us. So with that in mind, let's jump to the next area that all of this has a direct impact. It's not the only thing it impacts, but has a direct impact on engagement. And there are really 4 pillars of engagement we think are essential that every organization, every individual has to think about. Hey, how am I engaging my people? How am I engaging myself? How do I feel in these areas? And so as you look at these 4 pillars, let's look at the first one. David, tell us about the first one, valued.
Yeah, so the first pillar of engagement is valued, and so understanding that employee engagement is an output, right? So you can't everything that you're doing within your organization determines what does employee engagement look like. So it's the output. Employee engagement is the output of all the activities going on to help have a positive impact on engagement. So we know that the greatest driver to organizations increasing employee engagement is success. It is the greatest driver. And so if you think, okay, well, why would you say that? Just think of what's going on right now in the pandemic crisis that's happening in the globe, and ask yourself this question: how engaged are the employees right now? Right now, we're not saying that any organization has done anything wrong. We're not saying that, hey, this is a nasty set of cards that we've all been dealt. Totally get that, but understanding that engagement is an output. So if people, if organizations that didn't have engagement with their employees prior to the pandemic, it is going to be much more difficult to have engagement with the employees after the pandemic. Because when we talk about engagement, the first pillar is being valued. Do I feel valued? I cannot make myself feel valued. It's what you do as a leader that lets me know whether or not I am valued within the organization. And the way that I know that I'm valued is twofold. Number one, you tell me that I'm doing a good job. You tell me that the work that I'm doing is excellent. You give me positive feedback, the what and the why of what I'm doing. And then not only do you tell me I'm doing a good job, the second component of feeling valued is this: you ask me for my opinion, right? So I feel valued. And then secondly, you ask me for my opinion, my insights on what maybe needs to be done differently or better. What are you seeing? That's how I know I feel valued. And because now that I'm valued, because you're doing those 2 things, the next thing is I feel connected, right? Now think about what's going on in the world today. And Kit and I just had this conversation maybe 20 minutes before we got on the webinar. Our process of execution and our execution in your pocket tool was all built on ease, and it was all built on how do we make sure people stay engaged so facilities in France can see what's happening in the United States. So we were thinking as a tool, as a system to help different locations all across the globe feel connected. We never really thought that when we talk about connected, we wouldn't be talking about my next door neighbor and I work for the same company, and how are you going to be connected when everybody's have to be working from home? So that's the second pillar of connected. I feel like I am part of something. I'm not just off by myself. So that's the second pillar of engagement. The third pillar of engagement is that I'm contributing. Now this is critical, particularly it's critical no matter pandemic, non-pandemic. This is critical for all of us to understand. I, as an individual, I need to see how what I'm doing day in and day out is making a difference. It is helping the organization achieve its goals. If I cannot see how I'm impacting the organization, and if I cannot see my contribution, I will become disengaged. So what is the organization doing that allows me to see, hey, because I did my job with excellence yesterday, this is the impact that it had on the goal. I have to see that contribution. Is the third pillar of employee engagement. And then the last pillar is this, is that I'm growing personally and professionally. Now, a lot of times when we talk about this pillar, about growing personally and professionally, we get confused and we think, okay, growing personally and professionally, it means they're getting certificates for completing certain educational requirements. They're getting degrees, advanced degrees. They're getting certified, right, to become a master black belt, green belt, lean certification. A lot of times we confuse that with when we talk about growing personally and professionally, this type of paradigm we put on it. Nothing wrong with that paradigm, but growing means I'm growing personally, professionally, because I'm learning internally within your organization. So I'm growing personally, because I'm getting more content. I'm growing. I'm getting more advanced in my understanding of what the business is doing. I'm learning from other people within the organization, and I'm growing personally. I'm growing professionally because I am proving to be such a valuable employee. The natural thing that ends up happening is that my professional growth within the company naturally takes place, right? So when we talk about growing personally and professionally, it's not just about an academic perspective. It's also about what am I doing to grow inside the organization, personally and professionally. So these are the four pillars of engagement. And this is what execution in your pocket was designed for, right? So as we begin to talk about this concept of execution, the digital tool, digital compass execution in your pocket, this is what everything we have done, everything we talked about, LGE, four pillars of engagement, it's been designed around this. So Kent, why don't you take us through the next couple of slides when it comes to execution in your pocket, and so people can get a deeper understanding of what this is.
Thanks, David. This is the top of the dashboard of Execution Pocket. We'll look at the dashboard in a little more detail in just a moment, but let me just tell you what this tool does. And number one, of course, that it's cloud-based, right? And that's a really big deal. It's a mobile platform. It's as easy to use as an app, very easy to use, easy to apply, and that's what we want to make sure you know. Really easy. It's already ready, built. It requires very little to get it up and going, and it certainly doesn't require consultant days or anything else. It's certainly available, but doesn't require. So let's walk through this look just quickly at the dashboard. Now, I know this breaks every rule of good presentations because there's way too much on the screen. What you will see is that there are 9 rectangles or blocks, right? The top one's just the picture execution in your pocket, and then below that are what we call the 8 elements of the dashboard. We're going to go through several of these real quickly in terms of how they impact or build on those 5 principles: inspire, educate, motivate, apply, sustain. So that's what it looks like. We may go to the live side if we have time at the very end for just a moment, but let's just walk through the elements and how they create inspiration. So inspire, in the dictionary it says inspire is to fill with an animating, quickening, or exalting influence. And what we would say is everybody likes a little inspiration. Everybody wants a little of that animated, quickening, or exalting influence. And we do that with what we call daily inspirational quotes. It begins with an SMS text notification everybody gets every day, usually at 8 a.m. local standard time, whatever their time, wherever they are, whatever time zone. And it's a reminder to keep the participants engaged and inspire them with greatness every day. So every day, there's a little positive reinforcement, a short quote, something to begin the day. I mean, the studies are legion that show when people begin with a little positive information at the beginning of the day, how it helps kind of guide the day. It's really the filter they look at throughout the day. Now, this next one, after we get a little inspiration, we think everybody needs a little education. And that's, by the way, a picture of those of you who don't know, that's David Williams there, showing, speaking in a video about the 3 keys of execution: simplicity and visibility, driving accountability. So once a week, there's a little microburst training on execution and other leadership topics like communication and accountability and unconscious bias and all things we need to be thinking about leading. Now, remember, leading is not a job title. Leading, we should all be leading our lives, leading our jobs. So this, when it says leadership, doesn't mean, well, I can check out because I'm an individual contributor. Well, gosh, I hope you're leading your life, right? So little short video once a week to really give some people some education. These help participants become more effective at executing their goals and leading themselves. That's so important that everybody takes responsibility. David, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right on this. And what we know through our understanding of how the brain learns. So if you have a traditional 8-hour seminar that you attend, great content, you're really excited, everybody's jazzed, right? Everybody's, well, this is some really good stuff. Think lift guidance energy. They're really excited. And then they come back into the workplace, and before you know it, they're great content that I listened to, great content that I've learned, but I'm really not applying it. This once a week video is a way to help the individual to take what they have learned in a larger class setting or in a larger online setting, to take what they have learned And then we are giving them a 3 to 5, 6 minute video every single week that reinforces the training. So when they watch this video, they go, oh, wow, totally forgot that. Oh, yeah, I remember Kent says something like that. And so they hear it, and then they can begin applying it, because if there's not this weekly reminder of what they have been taught, they will forget. We forget. So it's not them, they, it's we all forget what we've learned. And this is what's so critical about the educate element.
Thanks, David. Excellent. Now let's move to the next element, motivate. And what you'll see to the right here is what we call my contribution score. So this is Emma, and she has a score of 130 points this week. She's done 28 actions on her goals. Her team has, and by the way, she's overall points, she's earned 600. Overall actions 300. And then as you can see, her team points, her team actions, her organization's points, her organization's actions. So talk about motivating. I'm getting a score for what I'm doing. People can see that I'm taking action on our goals. I'm earning points for that. I'm even earning points for watching the video, for reading the daily inspirational quote, for reviewing the goals. We get points for all kinds of things. But I can see, hey, Emma can see she's not the only one doing this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's got 600 points out of the 10,000 points on her team, which is fantastic. She see, I'm part of the whole. The idea is if you think about it again, what does the dictionary say? Motivates to provide with a motive or a cause or reason to act, incite, impel. We're trying to give Emma and everyone else a reason to act. Well, I'm part of a team, and I'm doing my part. We're all doing our part. I'm not the only one. I'm not the lone wolf. I may be the only one in my apartment, my flat, my house right now working on this, but there are other people doing it too. And I can see real time. Every time Emma does something, she gets points, and I can see it real time too. I can see points. I can even see what she's done real time. The idea here is really to keep participants motivated through the gamification, the real-time leaderboards, and internal social networking capabilities. I mean, social networks are so powerful today. We've created here a social network built on what actions and behaviors are you taking around the goals of the organization? What contributions are you making on the goals for the organization? Such a big part of this. Talk about wanting people, keep people motivated. Oh, wow, I'm not the only one doing this. Everyone's doing this stuff. What would you add, David?
Yeah. So what I will add to this is also the element in the Motivate platform, as Kent was talking about. You can see here's what my contribution is, here's the team's contribution, then there's the organization's. And so I, as an individual contributor, as a participant on this team, I can click on what other teams are doing and see what they're doing. Now, I'm not clicking on it to look over their shoulder. How many times have we been sitting in a classroom setting, either facilitating a class or as a actual participant, and the facilitator goes, any questions? And then what ends up happening is everybody looks at each other around the room, and everybody as adults now are afraid to raise their hand and say, yeah, I got a question, right? And so what's beautiful about the Motivate piece of the platform is it allows people to raise their hand in the classroom in a safe way, because they can see what other people are doing, and then they will learn from what other people are doing. So instead of being told, hey, go follow Kent, go see what Steve's doing, go see what James is doing over here, instead of being told to go talk to that person, which they might resent, they can now look and see, wow, I hadn't even thought about doing something like that. I'm going to try that to see if it works for me as well. So now you get great cross collaboration taking place, safe learning take place, and it's all embedded in this Motivate piece of the platform. So it creates an opportunity for people to learn, and they're not afraid to raise their hand because they are the ones seeking the learning, rather than having a facilitator standing in front of the room saying any questions. All right, so that's one of the things I would want to bring out on this Motivate piece, because it is a great way for people to learn, safe way for people to learn,
Absolutely. So let's talk about the next element, which is our next principle. Oh, lost my cursor for a second there. And that is apply. That block, you'll see it says my daily actions. And what we're looking for is for every person to describe the specific activities and behaviors they took today to execute on their most important goals. So they're going to put in a sentence or two. Hey, here's something I did. Here is something specific, some specific action I took. David's got a client, that long-term client that he works with, and I say client David because he's the one who works with that client all the time, that they applied this to specific actions around customer loyalty. And it was amazing to see the performance. You know, David, give us like a 30-second thumbnail sketch of what happened there and the improvement they saw by just having everyone say across the country, thousands of employees, when they just said, here's what I did today about customer loyalty.
Yeah, so they had this process that they had, and it was based on a customer service book, and they called it pulling one of the 5 levers. So each one of these levers that they were taught about is that, hey, if you pull a lever with the client, the client's gonna love you for doing it. So building trust, solving a problem, providing solutions, those are some of the levers that they were talking about. So every single day, people went to the system and they said, this is the lever that I pulled and this is how I pulled it. And the breakthrough was phenomenal, because now I'm saying this is the commitment that I'm making today to pull the lever with this client, and these are the results that I got when I pull the lever. So it's just a way of really just full transparency, full accountability, but done in a very positive way so people could see what was going on.
Absolutely. And what's really amazing about that is that organization started with just about a third of the organization running this tool and 2/3 not doing it. The third of the organization that used this tool saw more than a 50% increase in customer loyalty scores over a 90-day period, where the other 2/3 of the organization actually stepped back and their scores actually dropped. So it was really, really amazing to see when you had groups using it, how it dramatically improved their performance. And when people weren't, not only were they not applying the ideas, they weren't getting any results either, for sure. Now, the last principle that we've built these elements on, I should say, then, is sustain. And if you think about what does the dictionary say, sustain says to keep up or keep going. So I'm in a race, I want to keep up, or I need to keep going. I don't want to drop behind in that race. I want to keep up with everybody else. Every participant makes commitments about how they're going to contribute to the goal, what they're going to work on this week, what they're going to do specifically about the goals. And when they make those commitments and keep those commitments, they get points. And of course, those are actions that show up on the scoreboard, right? And this is really essential, because how many of us have worked on a team or an organization where we set some goals, we had a really great start, we maybe even had a good quarter or two, maybe even a good year. Have you noticed how over time that tends to drop off? It tends to drop off. So many systems are so hard to keep going and to keep sustained and we've specifically built this. So in 2 or 3 minutes every day, people can quickly review their commitments, the goals, and put in, what did I do about the goals today? 2 or 3 minutes. At 2 or 3 minutes, I can give a high five to someone else. 2 or 3 minutes, I can thank someone else. 2 or 3 minutes, I can just make a comment about some other good thing that someone else has done, how I've learned a best practice from them. The power of that's essential. It doesn't take a long time. This isn't a 30-minute endeavor. This is a very short, quick endeavor every day. It's like when you're waiting for your bagel to toast in the toaster or your coffee to brew, boom, you're doing this on your phone or your tablet, your PC, wherever you are, waiting for that to happen. It's not taking a big amount of time from you today.
Yeah, and what's beautiful about this from a process perspective is that at the beginning of the week, I put in my weekly commitments, and then every single day through the daily ABCs that was in the previous slides, here's my weekly commitments that I made. And every single day I'm talking about what am I doing on a daily basis to make sure my weekly commitments are kept. So the commitments are in alignment with the goals, the ABCs are in alignment with the weekly commitments, and that's how all this is, brought together, if you will. And because we know from past experiences, I think most of us know from past experiences, hey, yeah, great, this is my weekly commitments, and then Friday at 3:00, and business closes at Friday at 5:00, Friday at 3:00, oh man, I haven't done any of my weekly commitments. So then the last 2 hours of the week, I'm rushing to get things done. And what we're saying is that make your weekly commitments, then every single day people should be able to see what you are doing, right? Because those weekly commitments drive the goals, right? So you go weekly commitments and then the apply piece. So that's how this is all connected together. And once again, it's a way to motivate the team, way to encourage the team, and for people to also learn from what others are doing. So that's one of the beautiful pieces of sustain.
Absolutely. Learning from each other, best practices. What often happens in organizations, there's no shortage of scoreboards out there. And so I'll see another branch on another part of the country, another part of the world that's crushing. And I'm thinking, how are they doing that? What's going on? Maybe send them an email, maybe you call them, maybe you don't. But real time in this system, you can see what people are actually doing. That's what most scoreboards don't do anything for you. They don't tell you what they did to get there. I see where they are, but I don't know what they did to get there. And so being able to see real time what people are doing and commenting positively, giving high fives makes all the difference in the world. Now, this isn't all done in a vacuum. There are several different kinds of scoreboards available, multiple scoreboard views. Here is a team scoreboard view. Here are some of the people on Blaze Performance Solution. Now, this is just from our test site. I don't really have 3 times as many points as David. It's just I was getting
ready to say,
I just wanted to put
what's
that
all
out there.
about?
It's a test site. A lot of people just sign up on my name on the test site. They know everybody on our team has my login information. So whenever anybody's doing it, they're using points for me. So it's not that I've done 3 times as much as David and Brian and Robert, and Steve's not even on there, but he should be. But it's just to show you an example, though. And by the way, if you click on any person's name or their picture here, you can go see exactly what they've done. I mean, wow, great. And then you can also get views for the overall organization, where when during the week were they taking the action. See these orange bell curves here. And how many actions were taken on each of the 3 goals. So this organization in this pilot version has an increased employee retention, solidify brand identify, and increase customer satisfaction as the 3 top goals. And you can see what percentage of time was spent on each of the goals that week. So there's just so many great scoreboards out there that give you information instantly, real time, about what's happening in the system. And we would say that's so essential. David.
Yeah. So what's fascinating with this type of data that every client gets, one CEO realized that the majority of the employees of this company was logging in between 7 and 9 o'clock in the morning. And so the CEO, very forward thinking, said, okay, no meetings can take place within the organization between 7 and 9. And the reason for that was the CEO said, people are spending time on working on their goals, and I want to make sure that we don't interfere with everybody working on the goals. And so between 7 and 9, we were able to show the client between 7 and 9, this is when more than 90% plus of the people within your organization were working on their goals. And the CEO, very forward thinking, said, okay, no meetings between 7 and 9, because that is the most valuable time we have as an organization to making sure that we have goal achievement. So you can get some really fascinating insights and data from the platform.
Absolutely. Some great people analytics, behavior analytics that are just built in naturally. So we've shown you a lot. How do you get started? It's so easy to get started. Let me just tell you this. It's easy. Remember, I compared it to using an app that you download on your phone, right? It's a lot like that. It's just, I can't say enough about easy. We created it for remote teams. It's prescient, right? That we created it for remote teams, and there are more remote teams working today than ever in the history of the world. And it's created for that. It includes complete onboarding training. There are videos on there about how to use it. There are videos about how to apply the rules of simplicity, visibility, and accountability, the 3 keys of execution. It's so easy to onboard. All you really got to identify is what are your goals, who are the teams, the people to participate. Info we need their name, who's their leader, their cell, their email, their time zone. And finally, it's operational in a week or less. It could be literally in a week or less, ready, built. You don't have to even get IT involved. I'll tell you this, a huge bank that we work with, when we first started using the system, everybody said, oh my gosh, the chief technology officer will never let you do this. In banks, we've got to be protective of all of these, this data, this information about our clients, et cetera. Within 3 minutes of our conversation, he's like, totally, I get it, not a problem. We absolutely can use this tool. Why? Because it doesn't load on their system. It's in the cloud. It's mobile enabled. It's not pulling any data from information. People are not putting information about clients or customers or even themselves. They're just saying what they're doing, right? So easy to use, so helpful. What would you add to that, David?
Yeah, so it is easy, and this is the beautiful thing about it. And so some of our organizations that we work, some of the organizations that we work with prefer to let the tool do the onboarding, right? So they don't necessarily have to have consultants live on site or via Zoom, like a Zoom call, to do the training. Other clients that we work with say, hey, we want the experts to come in and teach. We want the consultants to come in and teach. and then we'll use the execution in your pocket tool to keep the content alive. And so this really puts the power of how an organization wants to implement it, puts it in their hands, right? And so as far as I know, and Kent and I, we have played in the space for well over 40 years between the two of us. As far as I know, there has never been a system designed with so much flexibility in mind. And so we really want to give the client the ability to choose. You can choose onboarding, as Kent says, or you can choose consultants. We work with you, we help you. So it's like, hey, we really don't know, right? We'll work with you to figure out what is the best way, right? And so just understand that the ability for the client to choose has never been better as far as we're concerned within Blaze. It's never been better.
Absolutely. In fact, we have an executive team for a large governmental organization with thousands and thousands of employees who reached out to us last week asking us to help them get started. And they said, ultimately, we'd love to have you come work with the executive team, but can you do it remotely? Absolutely. So if COVID virus isn't improved in the next couple of months, then we'll do it all remotely in terms of them working on their goals and other activities. But in the system, people could start right away. So I would say this as we close up. Today, more than ever, people need to feel connected. They need to feel part of a team. They need to win. Today, more than ever. And what we're saying is, if you bug people enough, work becomes the course of least resistance. That's not what people want, nor is that what they need. They need help and want help to get better and to be better. And in this system, you can see how implicit to the system is coaching and mentoring at every level for every individual. And by the way, we'd say one thing about this system. It's really important, and we haven't talked about that. And that is everybody should play, not just the frontline employees, not just the middle managers, but from the C-suite down. And in those organizations where you have the C-suite bought in and saying, we're making a difference, we want everybody to see what we're doing, we want them to see what we're doing, we want to see what they're doing. It's amazing how when you have that open visibility and accountability, how it dramatically shifts the site organization. We're in this together. We're all going to do this.
Yep.
It's not just something somebody else is going to do. With that in mind, I love this quote from Muhammad Ali. Don't count the days, make the days count. Do not wait for COVID-19 to be over to get started. Do not wait to help your team get better. Do not wait to help yourself really make the days count. You don't want to have 30, 60, 90 days where we're out, we can't do anything now. Well, so what are you doing now to get ready? So please contact us. We'd love to talk to you more about how to use the system, give you access to the system. We give you a 7-day trial. We also have a 90-day out clause. Once you start, within 90 days, you can say, yeah, we don't want that anymore. Although I'll tell you, frankly, we never had anybody out after 90 days. But great tool. We love the tool. We will post the recording of this webinar later today on our LinkedIn page, our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and we'll send you information. So feel free to share this webinar and lots of others we have on our website and our YouTube channel and Facebook pages as well. So anything else you'd add, David?
No, I think that's you nailed it. You nailed it there in the closing comments. And just we're here. I mean, we're here to work with you, to serve you, and to really help you and your organization be successful, whether it be an execution or any other process implementation, using our tool to help you, right? Because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Be safe, have fun, and win out there. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Yeah, rock and roll, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks. All right, bye-bye.